Hello and welcome to the show. This is Andy Shed Live for Sunday the 21st of May 2023. Hello there everybody and welcome to the show. We are here with you live again this Sunday. It is the 21st of May, as I say, and the sun is out and the sky is blue today. Hello to everybody who is with us in the old chat room as well. Who we got in the chat? There's Peter is there. Penfold is there, Christopher is there, Miguel is there, Fat Hobbit is there, Dominic is there, various people all there in the old YouTube chat. If you've not joined in the chat before, well, why not do it tonight and just join in. We will be here with you for around about an hour or so this evening, so a shorter show than normal because I've been out and about today and I didn't get back until late. I'm just having a look what people are saying in the chat. Penfold says, top tip, never take sleeping tablets and laxatives at the same time. Can't argue with that one. Fat Hobbit says he'll drop back at 7. Carol says, good job Andy's on at 7 tonight. Did you arrange this later time with him? No, nobody arranged it. I didn't even arrange it with myself. It's just the way it happened. Penfold says he's on land today. Oh, well done, Penfold. That's a bit unusual for you, isn't it, being on land? What bit of land are you on? Probably some foreign shore somewhere. Peter says Karen got hired to an offshore rig during the pandemic. She's an essential oil worker now. Oh God. Oh, that's the level, is it? That's setting the bar, is it? Right, here we go. Yeah, he says he's done his 2 lame dad jokes for this week, so yeah, that's over that one. Dominic says he finally got to go to Christchurch yesterday. Did you go to the Tramway Museum or did you just go to the village, Dominic? I assume you went to the Tramway Museum. Dominic says that there were 2 open-top Blackpool trams out, and then the Sheffield which Sheffield double-decker? There are a number of them. I think there's 2 that's operational. The open ones, if there were 2 Blackpool open trams out, there's only 2 open ones. One of them will have been the open boat and the other will have been the tow track 166. Can't remember what number boat they've got. Dominic says it turned out there was a special Daimler event on, so lots of vintage cars too. Were there any buses? Because Daimler made buses as well as cars. We used to have them in Chesterfield. Lots of Daimler buses. Daimler Fleet Lines they were. Rough as rough, one of the worst buses you could ever wish to have to drive or ride on. Really not like Daimler cars at all. Peter says, I drove through Sheffield and Buxton and Glossop last Sunday. Penfold says, did you see any Penfold pillar boxes? I don't think there are any Penfold pillar boxes around Sheffield. I could be wrong though. Is that where your name comes from, Penfold? Is it to do with pillar boxes? I never put those 2 things together before. Sorry. What does it say? It's a good comedy effort by Peter. Yeah, I'll give him about a 5 out of 10, Wesley. I'm not giving him no more than that, though. Not for those. Essential oils, indeed. Dominic says, I think there was one on the high street. Saw a K1 phone box. Yes, that K1 phone box, that'll be the one outside Poplar House, I'm guessing. We're talking about you, Dominic, seeing Penfold phone boxes, not Peter seeing Penfold phone boxes on his drive. Right, has Crouch got a Penfold phone box? No, I don't think it has. I don't think it... I mean a Penfold pillar box rather, not a Penfold phone box. I don't think it has. It has got a pillar box on site that the Royal Mail do still come and collect from. But I don't think it's a Penfold. In fact, I'm fairly sure it's not a Penfold. Penfold himself says the foreign land he is on is actually Scotland. That's foreign enough. They speak a different language, so that's foreign enough for me. Dominic says, I'm right about the trams that are out. I can't remember the number of the Sheffield one, but it was the closed top one from 1900. That's Little Louis. That is 264, is it? It's not Sheffield 510. The one that's not 510. Dominic says, I did see a wall phone at Crouch and a few 200 and 300 series. Right, are they still around then? Because they will be what were originally connected up to Crouch's own internal telephone system, because they did have a Strowger exchange maintained by a chap called John Markham and another guy whose name I forget, but mainly John Markham. But I'd heard it had been decommissioned and sold off and they got a modern phone system in. But yeah, certainly lots of the trackside phones were like 300 series and Bakelite's and that are in little sort of cast iron boxes at the side of the tracks. They open with a T key. Christopher says, I'm buying an Ericsson telephone and an AER 706 clone. Excellent. Oh, the Underpants of Doom is with us. Welcome aboard, Underpants. Dominic says, the Bakelite phones looked like they were out of use, but the wall phone was a fireproof one in the depot. The Bakelite ones may have been out of use. Where were they, Dominic, these Bakelite phones? Well, you should have picked one up and see if you've got a dial tone on it. Yeah. Next time you go, pick one up, see if it dials out. You'll be lucky the bloody phone box doesn't dial out half the time. The number of people I had to give 20p to because they'd lost money in that phone box is unreal. Because while it's an A&B phone box, it doesn't work quite like a normal A&B phone box, and so it really confuses people. You could, if ever you're 10p short for your lunch, you could almost always walk past it, press a button and get a 10p out that somebody had sort of got stuck in it. You could almost always get 10p for your lunch out of that phone box. But yeah, right, so you've all been out and about a bit, it would seem, and stuff. And like I say, I've been out and about today. I was at Crouch Mill at Cromford today, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I've discovered today, didn't know that before. So I've been there today, and I found a man playing a barrel piano, and it's the only other person I've ever seen who's mad enough to own a barrel piano, because I have got a couple of those. It's a long story. Miguel says, Autophone was the original supplier to Crouch. When are we talking about? Gambo is here as well. Hi Gambo. He says, hi peeps, I'm here. Just trying to organise some phones for sale on eBay, etc. Dominic says, I remember there was a strange one in a K6 phone box which looked like the Aussie 400 phone. The AB box had been removed. Oh. So they've taken the AB box away from Crichton, have they? Well, that's a shame. What on earth have they done that? I tell you, that place is really going down the pan. It really is, which is one of the reasons I don't have anything to do with it anymore. As we've said before on here, nice trams, shame about the owners. That's the general consensus. I didn't invent that. That was told to me by somebody from another tram museum that shall remain nameless. But yeah. Well, while you've all been out and about, sort of spying old telephones and rising up and down on vintage trams, I've been sat here working away. Ericsson N1900. I've got a diagram for one here now. Yeah, if I can. Hello, where's me? There it is. Yeah, I've got a diagram here for an Ericsson N1900. If you've not seen one before, let me get it on the correct camera, and I will. Attempt to show you it. Yeah, somehow like that, I think. There you go, Ericsson N1900 wiring diagram. And you'll notice at the bottom of this diagram it's got an N number. You can see that number, that N112, yeah? Well, that's an Ericsson part number for the actual diagram itself. And what is really confusing about Ericsson phones is, while the phone itself is called an N1900, also the diagrams and any other part in the phone also each have individual N numbers. So if ever you see an N number on an Ericsson phone somewhere, it's not necessarily the number of the phone, it might just be the number of the component. So just watch out for that. But that's out of an N1900. The reason that is out of an N1900 is because I've been a bit busy this week. I have been working on an N1900. You may remember that I had one that that had a red one that had a blue dial bezel fitted to it. Well, I went on eBay and I happened to find the right colour of dial bezel. Just bear with me 1 second. It's just struck me that we're probably not on the right microphone here. It defaults to a different microphone. Just bear with me a sec. Sound preferences. That's better. Well, I'm on this microphone now. Does that sound any better now? Now I'm actually on the headset microphone, not the one built into the computer.
Right, that should hopefully sound a bit better now. Yes, I've been busy. Look. It's red. Now this is a bit of an oddball N1900 because although it has got a metal finger wheel, it's actually a dial 21, not a dial 12. When they've got a metal finger wheel, they're normally dial 12s on them. This is not, it's a dial 21, and there were some others in the batch, the same, the green one, that I got in the same batch from a guy down in London who worked for Telephone Rentals, is the same as this. And this is an ex-Telephone Rentals phone. Although it's not actually got the sticker on it now, you can see on the back where the Telephone Rentals sticker has been for it. So this has had a bit of a clean up this week. I've not, however, done the cord yet. As you can see, the cord is somewhat manky on it, but the rest of the phones had a rather nice clean up. So that one is done. So I've now got a spare blue one of these, and I've still not got a blue N1900. That is one colour I've not got. Almost all N1900s that you will see are grey. Almost all of them are grey. N1900E244 is a full number for a grey one. But as far as I know, they did them in all colours that were available at the time. So ivory, black, two-tone grey, two-tone green, blue, yellow and red. And I've not got a blue one, so I've got the dial bezel towards it, so one day I'll find a blue one and we'll fit this bezel to it. So that is what I've been up to this week. Made this rather nice red phone. The problem with it is it's a bit wonky at the minute because it's only got 3 feet out of 4. It needs a 4th foot, and I've got some feet somewhere on some bases, so I will find another foot for it from somewhere, I dare say. Christopher's out buying phones, or he's going to be out buying phones. AER706 clone, apparently. Keith is with us. Evening, Keith. Right, I'm just reading through the chat. What are we selling on eBay then, Gambo? The Underpants of Doom says Big Clive is Scottish. He is indeed, even though he actually lives on the Isle of Man most of the time. I say most of the time because I understand he's got a tenement flat in Glasgow as well, where he sometimes broadcasts his Saturday night live stream from. Penfold says Big Clive lives in the Isle of Man as a tax exile. Oh, I don't think he actually makes that much money from it, you know, because he's a bit like me. He kind of shuns the adverts a bit. But yeah, I don't think he makes a massive amount of money from it, although he has got a massive following on YouTube and that, and he has 2 channels. There's Big Clive Live and also the other Big Clive, which is the one he puts his normal videos on. The Underpants of Doom says, has anybody seen the channel Mend It Mike? Highly recommended for anybody who likes mending electronics. No, not seen that one. That's a new one on me. I'll have to have a look at that one. Gambo says, you sound better on the default, to be honest. Do I? That's interesting. Oh, that is interesting. I thought you might not get so much background hum on this. Oh, right. I can switch it back. I can, hang on a minute. How do I do it now? Let's see. Sound preferences. Input.
There, I think I've switched it back. Yeah, I have. Does that sound better then? Am I better on there? Well, being that we've not got the phone lines open, so I only have this generally for the phone-in thing. So, being that we've not got the phone lines open at the moment, I could take that off for a bit then. There we go. There. Why does it feel like you've taken a hat off or something when you've had a headset on? It's only a headset, and it feels like you've taken a spaceman's helmet off or something when you take it off. You feel like you're going and but I haven't. Right, I'm just trying to follow what's going on in the chat here. Right, Gambo says, I finally got round to testing out my BT Ultimate 106 with the extensions. I can receive calls between extensions, but the phones don't ring. I think my phones aren't supporting it. Wesley says, Gambo, are you using sockets with the ring capacitors in them? Yeah, basically, Wesley, I think what Gambo is saying there, basically Gambo, I think what Wesley is saying there is that every socket that you wire an extension to from your PBX has to effectively be a master socket, i.e. it has to have the ring capacitor in it. So every socket that is on an extension has to be a master socket, not a normal house extension socket. Does that make sense? Because it has to have the ring capacitor in it. Gambo says he's got no idea what sockets he's got. Their sockets he bought extra from eBay as the ones that came with the kit. You have to slide the cable in with a plastic tool, if that makes sense. Yes, it'll be a crimp down tool. Have I got one handy? I believe right now there's various versions of a crimp down tool. This is a crimp down tool. This thing is a crimp down tool, and basically you get I've got a bit of random phone wire kicking around on here. It's not actually connected to. Yeah, there's a little bit. Oh, I'm knocking things over left, right, and centre here today. I want to ask a question about fountain pens as well in a minute. Don't let me forget to ask you about fountain pens. Right, the crimp down tool. What it does is you put your piece of wire across a thing in the socket, and you put this tool on it like that. So imagine your socket's under there, and you put your tool on it like that, and this pushes it in to like blades in the socket that cut through the insulation, and it also trims the end off. as you do that, you see it's cut the end off there, and that is how a crimp down tool works. Now you can get a little plastic version of this. It's just a little tiny plastic thing that they normally give away free with a socket or something, that doesn't obviously cut the end off. It's not got the blades on, but these are not expensive. They are less than a tenner. You can buy them out of a big B&Q, or you can easily get hold of them online, and these are pretty good. So I mean, I've had this one a good few years. I've had it so many years, it's starting to yellow. Look, the plastic, it's starting to get a suntan. But yeah, these are very good indeed, and they even have a little hooky thing on them. If you press that in there, a little hooky thing slides out, and that is when you've crimped something down. If you want to pull that wire off again, you get that hook underneath it and just lift it out and pull it up. And there's also a built-in screwdriver, I think, on this one as well. If you turn it over and press that, that is supposedly a built-in screwdriver, but it's a bit rubbish, to be honest, that. But yeah, that is a crimp down tool. But I think you need to use those sockets that you've got in the kit, because I think they are master sockets, and the ones that you've got are probably not master sockets. You know, these other ones that you've got off eBay, they're probably just ordinary extension sockets, which are not what you want. You want master sockets. Right. Christopher says the red Ericsson phone looks awesome. Thanks, Christopher. I thought it looks good. For some reason the red ones always look better, and they don't seem to yellow like the other colours do either. They don't seem to change colour much. When I took the blue dial surround off this one, underneath where the dial surround is normally a different colour, because you know that the bit that's exposed to light has changed colour over the years, and the bit that's under there hasn't. You know, so you get an ivory phone that's gone a bit darker yellow. It's still the original ivory colour underneath here when you take this off. But when I took the blue one off this, because it had got that one on originally, you know, which looked a bit pants really. When I took that off this, I've got it stuck now, that's it. This was the same red underneath as it is here. You know, it hadn't changed colour at all. So yeah, I was quite impressed with that. Where it says, can you get a picture of the back of the sockets, Gambo, where you make the terminals? Where it says, I thought they were 2-wire extensions with the ring capacitor in the socket. There should be, Wesley, I believe. There should be 2-wire extensions with the ring capacitor. That's what I've got here anyway. Although some of them I think are 3-wire as well, but they still have to have the thing in the socket. Dominic says number 74 was the Sheffield tram I was on. Yeah, 264 is the one at Beamish. I'm getting my trams mixed up. Yeah, it's a short canopy car, isn't it, Dominic? Sheffield 74. Yeah, that is the one that we call Little Louis. But yeah. Gambo says a red 747, a green 746, an ivory cream 766, and off time a blue 776. Right, what's a 747? I know what a 746 is. What's a 747? An ivory cream 766. Is that a push button one, 766? Wesley says, no background noise. Better, I think. No background noise on this, Wesley. Really? I'm surprised you can't hear the computer fan going. Christopher says, have you ever heard of the AER706 clone before, Andy? I can't say that I have, Christopher, but everybody built their own version of the 706. So I'm not surprised that there's one, because everybody seems to have built their own one. I think a lot of the time they just took 706s off the production line and just sold them privately, because you often look inside these so-called clone phones and they have got GPO markings on the capacitors and things like that. Gambo says, you're right about the hum, but you find better, but then I'm tone deaf. So the hum is back, then you can hear the computer fans. Underpants of Doom says the red telephone is gorgeous. Yeah, I like it. I like the red ones. Everybody likes the red ones, actually. Red ones sell as well. When I used to sell them in the antique centre, you could always sell the red ones when you couldn't sell other colours. That's why red ones now, if you want to buy a red one, are often more expensive, because people know they can sell red ones. Gambo says, I bought the extra boxes so I could test the system out, so I didn't waste the crimp down kits. What kit are you talking about? When you crimp something down, you should be able to pull it out again and use the box again if you want to. Underpants of Doom says, I had the green version of the red phone. Yes, I've got a green one here. Oh no, I don't think it's actually here at the minute. I think it's in the radio studio, because I left a big box of phones there. But yeah, there is a version of this red phone that I've got in green that came with it. A green version of this came with it. Yeah, I've got to look at that one yet and do something with that one yet. Time is the thing. I don't have any. Chris says he's buying an N1900E244 in Australia. So that's a grey one then, Christopher, like most of them are. Dominic says, why has it got that nickname? Little Louie. Right, yeah. It's a complicated and somewhat personal to me story, but at the time that tram was restored, there was a girl at Sheffield, a girl at Crouch, who worked with me at Crouch, from Sheffield, called Louise, and the tram was being restored at the same time that she had arrived at Crouch, and so when it came out we called it Little Louie after Louise. That's because she was little, like the tram. Yeah, and she hated it. She absolutely hated the fact that the tram was called Little Louie, but it's kind of stuck. Yeah. They've all got nicknames. I'm not sure how well known these nicknames are now, because they were known by the people at Crouch at a certain point in history, and it's a lot of years since I've been there now, and probably a lot of the other people that use these nicknames are dead. But for instance, Liverpool 869 was known as Nomad, because once they restored it, they hadn't got room for it in the depot. It didn't have a sort of permanent parking spot in the depot, so it used to be like stored in the workshop or stored wherever they could just stuff it. So we called it Nomad because it had got no home. So Liverpool 869 was known as Nomad. Did any of the others have names at Cryche? I'm just trying to think if any of the others. Oh, Leeds 602, and I don't know. Well, I don't know why it's called this. I didn't name this. This date, I think this probably dates back to its days actually in service in Leeds. Leeds 602 is known as Pussyfoot because it's quiet, like a cat walking. Before you think of anything else. Yeah, have any of the others got names? Any of the others got names? I'm thinking that Sheffield 510's got a name, but I can't remember. A friend of mine always used to call Sheffield 510 Mildred, and I've got no idea why it was called Mildred. You'd have to ask that. But I never knew why it was called Mildred, Sheffield 510. But yeah, but they used to call it Mildred for some reason. I only just remembered that. Dominic says, red I think is my favourite colour of phone. It's a shame the red trim phone only came out right at the end of production in limited numbers. You know something, the red trim phone's not very nice actually. I've got one. And it's not the same red as these phones. It's a weird red. It's a sort of red with a... It almost looks like it's got like a foggy white haze on it all the time and you can't polish it out. It's the shade of red it is. Yeah, it's not the nice bright shiny red of these phones. No, it's an oddball red, the red trim phone. It's not a particularly nice colour, that one. Of all those Snowden range phones, I think the black and grey one is the best one of those. Gambo says, "Soz I was speed typing. The 776 is the compact telephone with the bell set." Yeah, so Gambo's got a 776, a blue 776, ivory cream 776, and a blue 776. That ivory cream 776 you've got, Gambo, technically they call that grey, believe it or not. I know they're not grey, but technically that's called grey in the world of compact phones. And the blue one is the rarest one in terms of colours. It's rarer than the others. So make sure you get a bob or two for the blue one. And it's got a red 746 for sale. So Dominic, if you like the red phones, Gambo's got a 746 for sale in red. Is it a Mark 1 or a Mark 2 746, that Gambo? What year is it made? I shouldn't say that because sometimes they get recased. What year was it made? Because it may be a Mark 1 that's got a Mark 2 case on. Wesley says the trim phone is more burgundy than red, he thinks. Yeah, it's certainly, I won't say it's burgundy, but it's certainly darker. But it's then got like a white haze. It's like a darker shade, but then lightened. You know when you go on your computer and you're doing like photo processing, you get something, you get a really dark red, and then you like turn the brightness way up and it puts like a white haze on it. That's what it looks like. It's not a particularly nice colour on those trim phones. Christopher says the AER706 clone phone is a black one. Yes, I'm not surprised at that, Christopher. Most of the clone phones were grey, and if they weren't grey they were generally black, and only very few were other colours. Dominic says, I've got one right next to me. I see what you mean. Is that a red trim phone, Dominic, that you've got there? Or a grey 776? I think it's a red trim phone you've got, isn't it? I think you have got a red trim phone. I think I've seen it. Oh, it is a red trim phone because you got it mostly because of BBC Micro Men. Gambo says it's a Mark II case, I'm afraid, the red one, refurbed in 82 but originally from 79, so it would have been a Mark II anyway at that, Gambo, so it's got the right case on it. May even have got the original case. They may not have changed the case when it went in for refurb in that. Dominic says, I put the old Sinclair office number on the Micro Men phone. I don't know if I've told this story before on here. For those that don't know, Micro Men was a BBC TV one-off drama done as a movie about the sort of early days of British-built microcomputers and the sort of competition that went on between Acorn and Sinclair. And at one point, Sir Clive Sinclair, played by Alexander Armstrong from Pointless, who actually, it is Alexander Armstrong playing him, isn't it, of Pointless, who makes a, is it Alexander Armstrong or is it not? I'm not sure if it is Alexander Armstrong now, I've said that. Not sure if it is or not. But anyway, the guy playing Sir Clive Sinclair throws a trim phone through the office window because Sir Clive Sinclair was prone to fits of rage, let's say. And in the world of TV, nothing is quite as it seems. And when they have to throw things about, they normally may come out of rubber. So they made a rubber trim phone, health and safety, all that, because if it threw it and it went the wrong way and it hit somebody, they couldn't use a real trim phone. So they made one out of rubber for him to throw through the window. It was quite heavy. It was solid rubber. It was supposed to go through this window. And anyway, he threw it at the window. It bounced off because it was rubber. So they ended up hollowing it out and filling it with plaster. So if you see Micro Men, when he throws the phone through the window, it's actually a rubber phone full of plaster. To make it heavy enough to actually break the glass, which surprises me because I would have thought that glass would have been sugar glass, and sugar glass breaks when you look at it. It's really, really fragile. You know, when you see people jump through windows, or on westerns when they get punched and they fall through the saloon window and stuff like that. That's what they call sugar glass. It is actually made out of a kind of sugar. Don't try eating it though, it tastes terrible, I'll tell you now. It does not taste like a nice sort of sugary sweet. It's horrible. But it breaks as soon as you look at it. And they sometimes use wax for bottles. I did a thing once where I was in an audience, I was planted in an audience, and every member of the audience had a breakaway bottle made out of wax, and we had to throw them on cue at Russell Brand, who was standing in this TV studio. Who's not wanted to throw a bottle at Russell Brand? Well, I've actually done it, together with about 800 other people. And they gave us all these wax bottles, and they looked like green wine bottles, but they were so fragile, and most people just picked this bottle up that was under the seat when they came in and sat down in the audience. Just picked this, and just the act of picking the bottle up, it went poof and just turned to powder. It was that fragile. It wasn't even pieces. It was just like powder on the ground. Just touch it and woof. And yeah. So only about half the audience managed to throw these bottles, because the others, they just broke as they picked them up. Did I hit him with the bottle? Yes, I think I did actually. Waitley says Sir Clive Sinclair was played by Alexander Armstrong. Yes, yeah, I think it was really good actually. It really did look like Clive Sinclair. And he says Tim from The Office was Chris Curry from Acorn as well. It's really good. If you've not seen Microman, it's worth a watch. Even if you're not interested in computers at all, it's worth a watch because it is very, very, very funny. And if you know anything about Sinclair and the Sinclair C5s and Acorn computers and that, it's hilarious. It really is. Microman, really, really good. Not on often enough. It's one of those things, a brilliant thing that the BBC made, and they never seem to repeat it. But there have been a few things like that. First Men in the Moon is another one. Brilliant thing. Really, really well done. It ought to be on every Christmas. Fantastic bit of family entertainment. One-off drama, one-off movie type thing. Really well done. They never show it. I think they've shown it once, possibly twice. Keith says, fascinating Andy, I'd love to throw a bottle at Russell Brand. Yes, wouldn't everybody? I was asked to do it, and I did it on television. It was on a program called Russell Brand's Got Issues. That was a very, very short-lived thing for E4 after he left Big Brother. But yeah, it was on that. A thing called Russell Brand's Got Issues. Actually made at Television Centre, believe it or not, before it closed. When it was proper Television Centre, and it had all the studios still, and that, not as it is now with about 2 studios left, and the rest of it turned into flats. Penfold test tasting sugar glass. Is that you admitting to be a window licker? Yes, I suppose it must be Penfold. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that. But yeah, well, I just thought it's called sugar glass. They say it's made out of sugar. It must be edible. Turns out it's not. So don't try it. It tastes horrible. Although the bit that I licked had probably been in a TV studio storeroom for the last 30 years or something. But yeah, it's very strange. And I'll tell you something, if ever you have to jump through or walk through a piece of sugar glass, it's really hard to do, because your body will not allow you to do it. If you see a stuntman go through it, they normally fall through it backwards. Because to actually walk into a pane of glass and you get right up to it, something in your subconscious says, don't do this, and you stop. And the cast of Red Dwarf once did an interview and talked about this, because I think it was Red Dwarf Back to Earth. It was one of the Red Dwarfs, one of the later Red Dwarfs, where there was a scene where they all had to run through these panes of sugar glass. And of course they were running, so they had to hit them forwards, and they said it was really difficult to do because your body just locks up. You know, it's really difficult to force yourself to run through a pane of sugar glass. It's strange, and if you look, most people you will ever see fall through a pane of sugar glass go through it backwards, or their arm goes through it and breaks it, and then they fall through it, or something like that. Not many people actually walk headfirst into it. It's really difficult to do. Christopher says, Did you know you can make sugar glass at home, Andy? I done it many years ago. Well, I suppose you can if it's sugar. I've got no idea how, though. How did you do it, Christopher? You need a big bit to be able to fall through it, wouldn't you? Yeah. Because it is, I think it literally is just sugar. That's why I was expecting it just to taste like sucking on a sugar lump. That's what, you know, that's what I thought. I thought, oh, it just tastes like eating a piece of sugar, you know, like a sugar lump. Doesn't it? Although, no, it might look. They'd probably varnish the bit that I tasted or something. But yeah, it's weird stuff, sugar glass. It's weird stuff. Yeah. Part of all this TV trickery stuff and that. There was on EastEnders. If you look in the Queen Vic pub in EastEnders, there's a bust of Queen Victoria that sits on the bar in the Queen Vic, and for many years the bust of Queen Victoria was rubber, because in a fairly early episode of EastEnders somebody picked it up and clouted somebody else over the head with it, and so they made a rubber one so that could happen. And for ages it was rubber. I don't know if it is now or not, but certainly for a long time that bust of Queen Victoria that looks like it's made out of like porcelain or something on the bar in the Queen Vic, for ages it was rubber. So yeah, you learn all sorts of rubbish here today. Tell you something else interesting about television as well, shall I? And a friend of mine who takes out stationary engines and things, like I've been to Cromford today with the stationary engines, I was talking to him today. Turns out he's only the brother-in-law of the creator of Treasure Hunt and Challenge Annika, and I never knew until today. And he went, hold on, you're Malcolm Hayworth's brother-in-law? He went, yeah, Malcolm Hayworth. Wow, I didn't know that. Is Malcolm still alive? He said, yes. I didn't know that either, because I'd heard that Malcolm Hayworth had passed away, but apparently not. Apparently he's very much still alive. He has retired now. So I'm now trying to find out what has indeed happened to Chatsworth Television, which was his production company. Because, as some of you will know, Challenge Annika, which was a Chatsworth Television production, has come back. The Crystal Maze fairly recently came back. That was another Chatsworth Television, and I'm wanting to know who we have to bribe to get some more treasure hunts done. So, and also some more Interceptor. And if you don't remember Interceptor, you must have blinked and missed it. But it was really good, Interceptor. It involved chasing people around with helicopters, zapping them with laser guns, and yeah, it was just fantastic, Interceptor. Yeah, we liked Interceptor. And it also involved Annabelle Croft, and you can't go wrong when you involve Annabelle Croft. Right, there we go anyway. Right, so that's all what's been going on here this week. So I really do hope we can get Treasure Hunt back. I'm going to try and get in touch with Malcolm Hayworth and see who we have to bribe to get Treasure Hunt back on air. Apparently it was a very difficult show to make, Treasure Hunt, which I can well believe with the technology they had at the time, but now it'd be dead easy, wouldn't it, with like live streaming video from your phone and that. It'd be really easy to make Treasure Hunt now. So yeah. Dominic says, I'm glad it wasn't a genuine red trim phone that went through the window of Micro Man. No, definitely wasn't a real one. Christopher says, to make sugar glass you have to use 3 ingredients. Sugar syrup, and I can't remember the last ingredients. You have to boil it in a saucepan and pour it in a mould and put it in the freezer. The Underpants of Doom says, in one episode of Toast of London, Toast gets a green 746 thrown at his head. That was the thing with the guy. Toast of London was the thing with the guy off of the IT crowd, wasn't it? The boss off the IT crowd. Who talks like this all the time? Yes, Jen, I think it's a really good idea. That was Toast of London, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I've not seen that. Michael T's here. He says, I remember Interceptor. You were around a very, very tight moment in time there then, Michael, because it ran for one series in a Christmas special, then they cancelled it for some reason. I've got no idea why. I don't think you'll ever see Interceptor again. I don't think they'd be allowed to do it now. I think health and safety will stop them doing it, because the guy who was the Interceptor and had the thing on his arm, he was actually a stuntman. He was a professional stuntman. That's how he could jump out of the helicopter into the backs of sports cars and stuff like that, which he did on Interceptor. He really did used to jump about on it and that. Very good show. I'm not sure how genuine it was though, because the idea of Interceptor was you had these contestants who had backpacks on, and in these backpacks was X £1,000. And they had to run around the countryside doing these various tasks, and the Interceptor chased them in his helicopter, and he had this thing on his arm that was a bit like a souped up TV remote control, this laser thing. They said it was a laser. I don't think it was actually a laser, but they said it was a laser, and if he pressed it and zapped you with this ray gun thing attached to his arm, if he zapped this backpack, it locked it, and at the end of the show you did not get the money if the pack was locked. But if he hadn't managed to zap you, they unlocked the pack at the end of the show, gave you the money. I'm not sure how real that technology to lock those packs was. I don't know if that was a real thing or not. If you ever get a chance to see an episode of Interceptor, have a look at it, because those backpacks, they just look fake, and I don't know if that was for real or not. I really, really don't know. But yeah, have a look at an episode of Interceptor, see what you think. Mark Stevenson is here. He says, Run the Gauntlet. I remember the title of Run the Gauntlet, Mark, but I can't remember what it actually was about exactly. Was it a kids show, Run the Gauntlet? Was it something akin to Nightmare? Was it a CITV thing, Run the Gauntlet, or a CBBC thing? I think it was a kids show, Run the Gauntlet, wasn't it? Mark Stevens says, The Interceptor is a British drama television serial that was first broadcast on BBC One from 10th of June until 29th of July 2015. No, that's something else, Mark. That's not it. Try putting in Interceptor ITV or Interceptor Chatsworth Television Productions and see what you get then. He says, Michael T says, Interceptor was, he believes, Treasure Hunt Mark II. It very much was. It had a lot of the Treasure Hunt people who worked on it. I don't know this is what happened, because I've not spoke to anybody who worked on it. But I think basically what happened, Treasure Hunt was a massive hit for Channel 4 in the very early days of Channel 4. Treasure Hunt was huge, absolutely huge. Everybody watched Treasure Hunt. And I think ITV basically went, we want a kind of action game show thing that involves helicopters and running around the countryside and that. And the technology to do it was so complicated. You needed so many people with so many specialist skills. Like you needed helicopter pilots, and you needed all this special kit because it was pre-mobile phones, or at least pre-most people having mobile phones, and the mobile phone network that there was certainly wasn't good enough to work if you went out into like the deepest, darkest countryside. And so there was only basically one bunch of people who could make a television show that did that, and that was the people that made Treasure Hunt. So I think ITV went to Chatsworth Television and said, here, you've done this thing for Channel 4, can you change as little of it as possible and do something for us that's on similar lines but same but different sort of thing. And I think that's how Interceptor came about. I don't know that for certain, but I think that's what happened. Why it only ran for one series, I do not know. I think they probably didn't like the price tag on it, because it must have been massively expensive. Mark Stevens says Treasure Hunt and the Crystal Maze were from the same production company. They were indeed. Yeah, that Crystal Maze was Chatsworth Television as well. Interceptor was 1989 apparently. Yeah, it could have been. Mark, yeah. Presented by Annabel Croft. Yep, that's right. Episode 1 was in Kent, episode 2 was in Norfolk, 3 was in Wye Valley. Mark's obviously been on Wikipedia here. Episode 4 was in Cumbria, 5 was Derbyshire. I didn't know they did Derbyshire one. 6 was South Borders, 7 was Cotswolds, and 8 was Cornwall. Yeah, so they made 8. That's interesting. And they did a Christmas special as well, months after. There was a Christmas special as well. But whether that was number 8, I don't know. My guess is they actually made 6 in the series, and a Christmas special, and a pilot. So my guess is that episode 1 was a pilot, episode 2 was the first of a run of 6, that went 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, they were actually the run of 6, and then 8 was the Christmas special. That's what I'm guessing, but I don't know. It's interesting. Chatsworth Television was a very, very clever production company, and as I say, fronted basically by Malcolm Hayworth, who was one of the most creative people in television ever. The shows he created were brilliant. But did you know he also invented Bullseye? That's one that a lot of people don't know. I've only found that out today. He made the first 2 series of Bullseye, then sold it to somebody else. Chris says, I've been rewiring my 1969 746L phone 2 days ago. Rewiring it? Why are you rewiring it, Christopher? Mark Stevens says, 19th of July 1989, run the gauntlet. 4 teams from, say, Great Britain, USA, Australia and Holland would fight to prove who was the best through a number of action-packed, and we mean action-packed, rounds. These were quite excellent, most of them involving racers in huge expensive machines such as jet skis, buggies and the supercats, jeep things. And then there was the hill, a race up an obstacle laden hill. Yes, it was a kids show, wasn't it? It was. I remember it now, Mark. Yes, it was a kids show, because one of the things that they drove around were ergo cats. Those little 6 or 8 wheel amphibious vehicle things. Yes, I do remember it. I used to watch it. Yeah, and they had little jeep things in it as well. Well, the little jeep things that they had in it, you could go to a place on the Isle of Wight. I don't know if it's still there or not. there was a place on the Isle of Wight called the Aero Park, which was basically like a museum of aeroplanes. It was a cross between a museum of aeroplanes and a theme park. And at the Aero Park there was a ride there called Rough Riders, and it was basically like off-road dodgems, and they used those little buggy things and they called them Rough Riders, and they were like scaled down jeeps, basically scaled down Willys Jeep sort of thing, and they called them Rough Riders, and they got like a lawnmower engine in the back. And I did have a go on one, and it was quite unnerving. Because you could go up like 45-degree hillsides and go across the hillside and the thing didn't turn over. It was strange. But I did also have a go in an Argo cat, and they are great fun, Argo cats. Great machines. If I had my own personal swamp somewhere, I'd definitely get an Argo cat, because they're just fantastic. Mark Stevens says the 1988 Christmas special was released on video. Despite what the sleeve says, the presenter is actually Alison Holloway, not Martin Shaw. What? 1988 Christmas special of what? Oh, of Run the Gauntlet. Made by Creative Action, Thames Television for ITV. Oh, that's interesting. It was Thames. Yeah. Yeah. Run the Gauntlet was from Thames. A lot of things are from Thames. Not be any more. I think I was at Thames TV at Teddington for the last but one programme ever recorded there, which was an episode of Not Going Out, and it was the episode of Not Going Out where Lee proposes to Lucy, and it was, at least I think it's the one where Lee proposes to Lucy. Yes, it's the one where Lee proposes to Lucy, and it was the last but one thing ever made at Thames, and may have been the last thing with an audience at Teddington. Very sad that day. Even sadder was the fact I didn't come out of Thames Television with a studio colour camera, because I really did try and pinch a camera that day, because I thought they're probably going to leave these in this building and demolish this building, because that's the sort of thing TV companies do. And I thought, if that's going to happen, I'm going to make sure I've got enough room in the back of the car that I can get a camera in the car. But unfortunately they wanted them for something the following day. Otherwise I would have tried to pinch one. So, yeah, I just thought it'd be quite nice to have it in the corner of the living room. Mark Stevens says, on Sunday evening, as to the winter months, Bullseye stopped being a game show and began to be an institution. It did. Now, the Louise that I was talking to you at Christ, who the tram little Louie is named after, she used to work part-time on a weekend in a chemist shop, and one day Jim Bowen came into her chemist shop to get some headache pills or something. Yeah, super smashing great. Look at what you could have won. Oh, look, it's a speedboat. Yeah. Shame you live up a mountain in Derbyshire. Yeah. Got a lot of use for a speedboat. Right, what are we looking at now? Oh, so Bullseye was ATV in association with Chatsworth Television. There you go, it was Malcolm Hayworth. Anything you see with Chatsworth Television on basically was Malcolm Hayworth. ITV 28th September to 21st December 1981. 13 episodes, and then it was Central in association with Chatsworth Television, because ATV lost its franchise and became Central, from the 10th of October 1982 to 8th of July 1995. 13 series plus 10 specials. Co-produced by Carlton UK Productions in 1995. Yeah, well, who the hell were Carlton? Carlton were one of the new ones. Carlton were one of the new franchises, weren't they? Around about that time. Is that when Thames lost its broadcast franchise to Carlton, and then Thames just became a production company? Talkback Thames. Yeah, television history is strange. It's really, really strange. And it's weird. I think I've said on here before that if you go to like Hollywood, there's lots and lots of film history around you. If you go to Hollywood, right, you know, there's like Chinese theatre where they all the stars have put their hands and feet in the concrete, and then there's the Walk of Fame where they've all got the names on stars as you walk down the street and stuff. This country, you go to places where some massive movies have been made. I'm looking at you, Borehamwood, and you go to all these television production places and that, and there's nothing. There is nothing that like commemorates any of it, really. There's a few little blue plaques and things around in Borehamwood if you know where to look for them, but there's nothing major. And there ought to be a massive museum somewhere, you know, full of stuff, but there isn't. And I'm sure I've said on here before. You may have seen pictures on the internet of the space wheel from the movie 2001 thrown on a bit of wasteland somewhere in a rubbish dump, and I can confirm that's true because I've spoken to people who saw that space wheel in that rubbish dump, and I said, well, for God's sake, why didn't you pick it up? But yeah, all the models and that from 2001 were kept in a warehouse for a long time by Stanley Kubrick, and then he didn't want to pay the rent on the warehouse anymore, so basically the people that ran the warehouse chucked it all out into a dump, and it all just got destroyed. I think one model from 2001 survives because it was given to an art college or something for the students to draw, but all the rest of it got dumped. And there is a photo of the space wheel in a dump somewhere on the internet, but it's not the only time it's happened, because the Death Star from Star Wars was being used as a litter bin at an antique shop somewhere in America for a long time. Yeah, it'd be used as a litter, because you know the bit on the Death Star with that sort of dished inwards, it's like a big antenna dish set into the Death Star. That bit was missing. You put your litter through the hole, and it was spotted by somebody and rescued, and has now been restored, and I don't know where it is now. It's probably in the Smithsonian or somewhere like that. But yeah, it was a litter bin outside an antique shop, and I've seen a picture of the antique shop with the Death Star with a litter bin outside it. It's amazing, but none of the history of it seems to be kept in this country at all. Absolutely none of it. What is Mark going on with now? Mark's doing the best that he can to be like AI with with his all this stuff he's coming up with. It's the quiz of the week, announced a rather enthusiastic John Benson voiceover while we watched a nostalgic piece of tin sculpture, the Anglia Rider on Horseback logo. Yes, live from Norwich, it's the quiz of the week. And that was Sale of the Century, wasn't it? I remember Sale of the Century. My God, that was dull. Mind you, it came out of Norwich. What do you expect? Yes. I was once forced to go for a night out in Norwich. Yeah. Just don't even go there. Just don't. Chris says he's rewiring his 746L to the phone in the railway room. So he's not actually rewiring the phone, he's connecting the phone up to another phone. Excellent stuff. Mark says Lucasfilm got the Death Star. Did they? Did they get it back? Then did somebody give it them back? Mustard. Michael T. Mustard. Why mustard? Not with it. Yeah, the Death Star. I'll tell you what I have got. I've said this before. I really must do this. Dominic, I need your help with this. Really must make a Dalek. Really must build a Dalek. I've had the plans for a original series era BBC Dalek for years and years and years. I've had the plans for well over 10 years, and I've never got around to building a Dalek. And I just want to build a Dalek because there's two things I want to do. I want to stop the local bus and the Dalek get on, because now all buses are wheelchair accessible. Theoretically a Dalek could get on a bus, and I have seen a hilarious bit of footage on YouTube of a Dalek getting on a bus in London before. And also, when the Jehovah's Witnesses come knocking on the door, wouldn't it be brilliant if a Dalek answered the door? Mark says, do you retro bright stuff? No, Mark, because in my experience of retro brighting, it doesn't work. I've never managed to get it to work. I know plenty of people who say they have got it to work, but it's never worked when I've tried it. For whatever reason, I don't know. So what I do is I do what they would call chemical sanding and rub a microscopic top layer off the plastic by liquefying it with acetone and then rubbing it off. Gambo says, so any progress on your G-Plan phone, as I have one looking for another, hence selling some phones, so I can try and connect the two, etc. Doesn't work like that, Gambo. You don't have to have two, you only need one. Right, how can I explain this? Right, who on here has actually got experience of plan set phones? I might be looking at you, Wesley, here, because as I understand it, a plan set, and if you're not sure what a plan set is, it's here. Hang on, let me get it. As I understand it, a plan set like this one, actually what it is, it's a normal phone, either a 746 or a 706 in this case. It's a normal phone stood on this base unit, you see. It's attached to this fancy base unit, yeah, bolted to it basically, and then out of the base unit comes a massive cable like this with all these cores up the cable, all those, yeah, and you've got to wire those to up to 2 other phones, and you do it via a junction box. But the other 2 phones are fairly standard phones with slight additions, you know, like addition of a buzzer or something inside them, and maybe a few other little bits on the inside. But the other 2 phones are fairly standard. So if you've got the plan set phone, i.e. that, then the other 2 are basically fairly standard 746s or 706s, just slightly modified inside. Oh no, I think the other 2 have to be, I think it has to be a 710, not a 706, because I think the other 2 phones have to have the functionality for at least 2 buttons on the top. And as a 706 has only got functionality for 1 button, although this one's got a blanking thing in it, you have to either have a 710, which has got 4 little buttons across the top, or use an ordinary 746, because a 746, the button on a 746 can be split in half. You can put 2 buttons in that are half depth sort of thing, but you need to have 2 buttons on the top, I believe, for the other ones. I think that's how it works. Yeah. So, but I'm still trying to figure out how it all works because of all these wires. See, imagine how it's. Wesley says there must be N diagrams to suit. There are, Wesley. I've got the diagrams somewhere. Yes, for the plan set. Yes, I've got the diagrams to show you how to wire it. Mark says the switching is by means of the 4 piano type control keys on the main. Yes, you're right, Mark. On the main, the switching is done by these keys. Well, 6 actually, because that selects which extension you're doing. You know, what extension 1 or extension 2. But here's your thing. So that's speak to extension. No, that's speak to exchange, that one. That's speak to the extension, the exchange held. And then when you move along, got another one. That connects the exchange and extension together. And then when you want to release it all, you press that one. So it's all the switching is done on here, on the main. But on the extension phones, it's done on 2 buttons on the top, 2 press buttons on the top. So you don't have to have the base section on your other 2 phones. This does confuse people sometimes. The other 2 phones are just standalone phones. They don't have this base section on them. So I hope I hope that's cleared it up. Christopher says, does your Red N1900 have the telephone rental sticker on? No, it doesn't, Christopher. It's got a sort of gummy mark where the sticker was, but I think the sticker's fallen off years ago. So yeah, it's got the mark, but not the actual sticker. You all right, Thor? You're whining. You all right, Thor? Thor, you come in. Come and say hello. Thor, ooh, hello. You all right? Thor the dog is whining at me. Right, it's almost time to go for today, I'm afraid. We're almost out of time. I'm just reading what people have been putting in the chat here. Mark says, plan set 625 supersedes the bell sets number 39 and 44, which we used on plan sets 5 and 7. Yep. Yeah, I'll go along with everything that Mark's put in the chat there. But yeah, we'll do something on these plan sets. I will honestly get round to it, and I will try and get 3 phones talking together as a plan set, because I have got 2 of these now. I've got this ivory one, and I've got a grey one as well. Not sure if the grey one's complete or not, but yeah, we'll have a look and figure it out, and we'll do something about the plan sets, because I do get asked quite frequently about plan sets, believe it or not. I think 1 or 2 people are trying to get them going again, but just a bit daunted by all these connections. Who wouldn't be? But yeah, provided you've got the relevant connection box, the relevant junction box, I think it all becomes a lot clearer if you've got the right junction box, to be honest with you. Right. Cranky, chat is going mad tonight. Wesley says, you must need a ringing supply, presumably. Yes, Wesley, I believe there's some kind of transformer that wires into the junction box that you wire this lot to. Yeah, I believe there's a little transformer that gives you that ringing supply that wires into the junction box somehow. Mark says that internal extensions, a suitable buzzer should be fitted to the telephone. This is the buzzer number 32C-1 for telephones. Yes, I must have had some plan set phones in the past, because I've taken buzzers out of some 746s and 706s and that in the past. And I think the buzzer must have been a remnant from them being on a plan set. So I've probably got some of those buzzers kicking around somewhere. So yeah, I'll have to have a look. I'll have to have a look and see what plan set bits I've got. But I ought to have enough bits kicking about somewhere to make up a set, I would have thought. I really should, shouldn't I? Because, yeah, well, I just should. So I will have a look and see what we've got in terms of bits and pieces. Oh dear, Michael. Michael says he lost his cat in January. sad to hear that. So that's not good. But perhaps you should rehome a new cat. That's probably what your cat would have wanted, for one of its fellow cats to benefit from a new home. If you've now not got a cat, perhaps you should rehome another one. Yeah, that's interesting what Mark's put there. It says the refurbishment, the handle fitted to 706s to give the same facility as the 746 was not strong enough to lift a plan set N625 as well as the phone. So it wasn't the handles, the plastic handles that they sometimes fit to 706s across here. Yeah, I can't get it in the shot tonight. Across here, that plastic handle that GPO sometimes fitted was not strong enough to lift both the phone and the plan set. What they needed to fit was a metal handle, which they didn't do, but which were available because Ericsson sometimes fitted metal handles to their N1900s. So yeah, they should have fitted a metal handle, but didn't, because they're the GPO and they're not always the sharpest tools in the box. Gambo says that they lost their cat last June, but 2 months ago they rehomed another cat called Bertie. So hello Bertie, if you're watching. The Underpants of Doom says, I think I've got the junction box for those plan sets. Yeah, you may have it. It looks like one of the normal little junction boxes, but it's just supersized. But it's the same kind of shape with the sort of slightly curved corners to it. It's like a fat rectangle with sort of cut sides that bulge out. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to do something on the plan sets. We really will have to see if we can get this plan set thing going, because, like I say, people keep asking me. They're incredibly heavy though. When you pick the whole thing up, it really is quite heavy. You can see why they didn't want to risk putting a handle on them. It would have broke the handle picking it up. But yes, you can see why they didn't want to do that, definitely. Right, that is about as far as we go for tonight. Thanks to everybody for taking part in it again, and particular thanks go to Mark for providing tons of information here in the chat to go through. If you've not gone through it already, I suggest you sort of wind back and have a look at it, because he's come up with lots of technical stuff here in the chat. Before we go, Christopher says, I also did experiment with a trim phone radioactive dial. I got a reading on my Geiger counter from the dial of 0.1 mini watts. I can't read it, it's too small. It's too small on my screen to read it, my eyesight. But yeah, not much is basically what he's saying. Oh, Michael T sent the super chat. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Dominic says, bye all, I have to send my photos from Christ. Yes, send them over, Dominic. Send them over. We'll stick them on next week. Yeah, I'm surprised you've got any reading on the Geiger counter at all, Christopher. I didn't think you'd have got any reading at all from it. Apparently the half-life of tritium, which is the thing that makes the radioactive dials glow, apparently the half-life is, I think somebody recently told me 10 years. Or did they say it's radioactive for 10 years, so its half-life is probably about 4 or 5 years. So yeah, not long basically. If you've got a trim phone and you're worried about it being radioactive, don't worry about it being radioactive. There's more background radioactivity around you when you walk down the street than you'll ever get from a trim phone dial. Really, don't worry about it. So I do remember a very concerned parent in the very early days of Andy Shed Live. A concerned parent of a child got in touch with me because their child was using an old telephone in a school play that turned out to be a 300 series phone, and this concerned parent was worried because they'd heard that old telephones were radioactive. So yeah, after I'd stopped sniggering to myself, I did actually explain the situation. But yeah, where he says it's a unit, the thing that you couldn't read. Yeah, I still can't read it. It's because the text, I've changed my computer screen, the text is written so small that I'm kind of half guessing what people are writing and not actually reading the words. It must be millis or micros, not minis. I think it's probably millis. But as Mark says, radium dials on watches and that were radioactive as well, painted with luminous paint. And you probably get more radiation from them than you would from a trim phone now, to be honest with you. Says, won't generate more danger. However, radium is highly radioactive, emitting alpha, beta and gamma, which I believe is correct. But yeah, I know the girls that used to work in the watch factories painting dials and things, they used to lick their paintbrush and then stick it in the radioactive paint, and that they didn't fare too well in later life. Right, that is about as far as we go for tonight, ladies and gents, because Thor and me have got to go out for a little WALK. Can't say the word. But yeah, thanks for taking part again, everybody. We will be back. When are we back? We're back next week, and hopefully next week we're back to the normal time of 6:30 starting. I'm not 100% certain though, so it may be 7 o'clock again. Look at the pre-show thing, see what it says on it when next week comes around. But hopefully 6:30, but it might just be 7 again, because it's that time of year when I'm out and about doing stuff, and I often don't get back because I get sidetracked and waylaid by people telling me there may be a way to get Treasure Hunt back and stuff like that. And when somebody stops you and says, I may know somebody who can help you get Treasure Hunt back on TV. Then you do stop and take notice, don't you? Because well, who wouldn't want Treasure Hunt back on the telly? If you saw Treasure Hunt first time around, who wouldn't want that back? And certainly who wouldn't want Interceptor back? I mean, Interceptor is one of the best things ever. I really, really like. Go away, watch it. After this, type into YouTube Interceptor ITV Annabelle Croft and type in Treasure Hunt Channel 4. If you get Treasure Hunt with Susie Perry, that was a later reboot on the BBC, wasn't as good. You want the Treasure Hunt with either Annika Rice or Annabelle Croft. They're the original and best Treasure Hunts. I will leave you with that. You've got plenty to watch there over the next week or so. I'm also told they've made a movie of Bank of Dave. I've been told that as well today. And I really want to go and see that movie. Where is that movie to be found? But yeah, I'm going to try and find that this week. So yeah, there's plenty to be going at this week. We will see you back here in the same time, same place next week. Remember, if you're not already a patron and you're enjoying the show and you do want to support us, you can do it by going here, patreon.com/Andy Shed. And also, don't forget, you can get in touch with us through the old website too, which is here, andyshed.coldpress.net. But that is about it from me for today. Have a fantastic week ahead, everybody, and we will see you next time. Wesley Pegden says, Annabelle Croft, please, in the queue, Wesley, is all I will say to that. Right, that's it from me for now. Have a good one, folks. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.